Welcome to AI Unraveled, your daily strategic briefing. It is Monday, March 23, 2026. I'm your co-host, Anna. Today's episode is brought to you by Aria and Jamgamind. Today, the AI industry is realizing that code isn't enough. You need the hardware, and you need the physical data. Elon Musk is tired of waiting on TSMC, so he's spending $25 billion to build Terafab, a massive chip factory designed to power a terawatt of orbital data centers. We're also looking at how DoorDash is turning its users into walking cameras to train robots, and how an AI Cowgorithm is modernizing agriculture at a $2 billion valuation. Plus, we'll discuss why ChatGPT's early advertisers are fleeing and why Mark Zuckerberg is building an AI to help him run Meta. Let's get into the news.
Welcome to today's deep dive. You know, when most people picture the future of technology, they see this frictionless floating AI magic.
Right, this assumption that progress is just software quietly updating itself in the ether somewhere.
Exactly, totally disconnected from the physical world. But as geopolitical tech analysts here at Jamgamind, our job is to look under the hood.
And when you actually do that, the whole frictionless illusion just shatters.
It really does. I mean,
Yeah.
You hit dirt, you hit steel, and you hit these massive, completely maxed out power grids. So today, we are putting on our System 2 lenses.
Yeah, for you listening, we are moving past the fast, reflexive hype cycle. We want to look at the cold structural mechanics of the macro systems that are currently taking over the enterprise landscape.
Because there's a fundamentally cynical strategic game of survival going on right now.
Oh, absolutely. And if you want to understand where the enterprise is actually heading, you have to stop looking at the shiny chat interfaces. You have to start looking at the physical constraints.
Right. So today, our mission is to analyze absolute hardware sovereignty, the literal harvesting of our physical world, and, well, the brutal collapse of the wrapper economy.
Which is really the perfect place to start. Because before we can look at the physical future of infrastructure, we have to recognize what is actively dying right now.
Yeah, the end of the software illusion. This whole idea that a company can just, slap a thin user interface over someone else's foundational model and call it a defensible business.
It's just not. The mechanics of a wrapper dictate its inevitable failure. I mean, you're building an interface on top of an API owned by a giant tech conglomerate.
You don't own the underlying intelligence at all.
Exactly. You don't control the compute costs, and you have zero structural moat. So when that thin layer of code meets hard enterprise metrics, the foundation just crumbles.
It falls apart.
Right. I call this the wrapping collapse.
And we are seeing that collapse play out in real time. Just look at ChatGPT's first advertising partner.
Oh, the agency data is brutal.
It is. These are massive, sophisticated agencies, right? WPP, Omnicom, Dentsu. And they are desperately trying to prove that ChatGPT ads yield actual returns.
But the numbers are just abysmal.
Yeah, one major brand saw a click-through rate of 0.91%.
Wow.
Right. And when you compare that to the Google search benchmark, which is around 6.4%, you are looking at nearly a 7-fold drop in efficacy.
Which is completely unjustifiable for an enterprise marketer.
Totally. There was another advertiser who allocated a $250,000 budget, and after several weeks, they only managed to spend 3% of it.
Yeah, and that specific failure, the inability to actually spend the allocated budget that tells us the platform lacks both the search volume and the granular targeting capabilities that enterprise marketers require.
It's not just low engagement, though. The systemic issue goes deeper.
Right. The measurement tools themselves are actively working against the advertisers.
Yeah, there's a reporting glitch in OpenAI's ad manager that literally blocks advertisers from seeing their own campaign data.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
If you're a media buyer, you can't optimize a campaign like that.
No, and you certainly can't justify the spend to your chief marketing officer if the dashboard is completely opaque.
Exactly. And, this collapse isn't isolated just to advertising.
Oh, not at all. Look at the developer tool Cursor. They just faced a massive backlash with their Composer 2 model.
Because they got caught simply wrapping the Kimi K2.5 model.
Right. And failing to disclose it to their users?
The illusion of proprietary tech just vanishes the moment users actually look at the network traffic.
Yeah, and when these wrappers intercept with legal frameworks, the consequences get severe.
Right. Take the recent case of the U.S. man heading to federal prison for 5 years.
Oh, the music guy.
Yeah, he built an AI music streaming fraud ring.
Yeah.
Basically generating thousands of fake tracks and inflating play counts with bots.
To net, what, $1.2 million a year?
Exactly. When the illusion of AI magic meets hard legal reality, it's over.
It feels exactly like the dot-com bubble bursting, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, in the late 90s, you could just add .com to your company name and watch your valuations soar based entirely on novelty.
But eventually, companies are forced to demonstrate real return on investment.
Right. If the math doesn't work, the party ends.
And enterprise value is actively shifting right now.
Mm.
The era of getting rich by reselling a prompt is effectively over.
So if the public cloud interface and the chat wrappers are dying, where is that value moving?
It's moving inward. It is moving toward deep, highly secure local execution.
Okay, let's trace that shift, because Mark Zuckerberg is fundamentally reorganizing how Meta operates right now by building a personal AI chief of staff.
Yeah, internally they're calling it second brain.
Right, and it's built on Anthropic's Claude. The goal is to dramatically accelerate information retrieval so Zuckerberg can just bypass multiple layers of human middle management entirely.
Which is a huge structural change.
It is. Meta employees are already using similar agentic tools, like this one called MyClaw, to access internal work files and chat logs directly.
And when you pair this technological shift with the Reuters reports that Meta is planning layoffs affecting up to 20% of its workforce.
The macro strategy becomes very, very clear.
Exactly. This is a textbook deployment of what I call local state orchestration.
Local state orchestration. Break that down for us.
Well, to understand this, we really have to redefine what AI actually is. For the past 2 years, AI basically meant opening a browser tab, typing a query, and getting an answer.
Right, a stateless interaction.
Exactly. The model has absolutely no memory of your business context. But local state orchestration means the AI lives inside your specific corporate ecosystem.
It holds the state of your business.
Yes. Your proprietary files, your ongoing projects, the historical context of your decision-making.
So it transitions from a passive interface to an active, agentic executor.
Right. One that can take multi-step actions. It is actively replacing the routing function historically performed by middle management.
And we can see the infrastructure for this local execution rolling out across the board. Like Anthropic just launched a new projects feature in their Claude Cowork desktop app.
Yeah, which is a big deal.
It is. It allows users to create dedicated workspaces holding specific instructions and files. But the crucial mechanism here is that the content is stored locally.
In a folder on your actual machine.
Right. You aren't constantly re-uploading sensitive architectural diagrams or financial models to a public cloud.
And that local storage solves 2 massive enterprise bottlenecks. First, it eliminates the friction of context switching for the user.
Because everything is just right there.
Exactly. And second, it guarantees vendor interoperability. By keeping the state of your second brain localized, you retain ownership of your structured data.
Ah, so if you decide to switch from Anthropic to a competitor next year, your localized context travels with you.
Yep. They're even teasing a sketch tool where users can simply draw a workflow diagram to direct the agent, completely bypassing text prompts entirely.
Okay, but wait, let's stress test this for a second because the security implications here seem catastrophic to me.
They are massive.
Right. You are taking every sensitive corporate file, every private executive chat log, and every strategic roadmap, and you are piping it into a highly capable internal agent.
Yeah.
If that second brain hallucinates, gets socially engineered, or, I don't know, accidentally CCs the legal department's private files to the entire engineering team, you have an unmitigated disaster on your hands.
A massive company-wide system crash.
Exactly.
The governance risk of local state orchestration is exponential. You are literally giving an automated system the keys to the corporate kingdom.
Which is exactly why we partnered with ARI for this deep dive. As Mark Zuckerberg builds an AI chief of staff with deep access to corporate files, the governance risk explodes.
It really does.
If you don't have absolute control over what an agent can access, you risk a Sev1 incident, a critical operations halting event, just like the recent data visibility breach at Meta.
Which nobody wants.
Right. NRI provides the necessary sandboxing to ensure that powerful internal agents don't accidentally leak your second brain to the rest of the company. They give enterprise leaders at the control layer required to actually deploy these agentic workflows safely.
Because without that sandboxing infrastructure, local state orchestration is just a liability.
Completely. But okay, once the security is solved, the deployment of these deep local execution agents creates an entirely new constraint, doesn't it?
It does, because software is ultimately bound by hardware, and hardware is bound by physics.
Which brings us to the physical consequences of this macrosystems race. Running deeply integrated agents requires a staggering amount of compute power.
You cannot rely on third-party supply chains if you want to win this.
And Elon Musk understands this structural bottleneck better than anyone, which is exactly why he just unveiled the Terafab project in Austin.
That announcement is huge.
It's a $25 billion joint venture between Tesla and SpaceX to build the world's largest semiconductor plant.
Because Musk has explicitly stated that current fabricators like TSMC simply aren't manufacturing chips fast enough to meet his AI and robotics timelines.
Right. And the scale of Terafab reveals the depth of the constraint here. Musk isn't just trying to optimize a supply chain.
No, he is attempting to establish absolute vertical hardware sovereignty.
It is vertical integration taken to its absolute extreme. I mean, it's like trying to scale a global fleet of electric cars, but realizing the regional power grid physically cannot charge them.
You can't just build better cars.
Right. You have to become a utility company, buy the land, lay the transmission lines, and own the power generation itself just to ensure your product functions. Or like a restaurant realizing they need to buy the farm, the delivery trucks, and the sun itself just to guarantee they can make a sandwich.
Exactly. And Musk's stated goal for Terafab is to produce chips capable of supporting 100 to 200 gigawatts of computing power per year on Earth.
Which is wild.
It is. But incredibly, the goal is also an unprecedented 1 terawatt in space.
Okay, why space? What does a terawatt in orbit actually achieve?
This is the frontier of orbital compute. Look, if you want to build a massive data center on Earth, you are fighting a losing battle against geography.
Because of the resources required.
Right. You need vast tracts of land, you need billions of gallons of fresh water for thermal cooling, and you have to plug into a regional power grid that is highly regulated, prone to failure, and fiercely contested by local governments.
But wait, a terawatt in orbit sounds incredible for solving the cooling and power issues, sure. But we are talking about processing massive AI workloads here. How do you deal with the latency?
That's the main question, yeah.
Beaming petabytes of processed data from low Earth orbit down to a terrestrial server farm would surely ruin the seamless agentic execution we were just talking about, right?
Well, the latency is exactly the engineering hurdle they're solving with advanced optical laser links and localized orbital processing.
Ah, laser links.
Yeah, the data doesn't all have to travel back to Earth instantly. The heavy training workloads can happen up in orbit, and only the refined model weights are beamed down via high-bandwidth laser communications. And in space, you have access to unfiltered 247 solar power. You have an ambient temperature near absolute zero, which completely eliminates the thermal management crisis plaguing terrestrial data centers.
That makes a lot of sense.
But most importantly, an orbital data center exists entirely outside the jurisdictional control of any single nation state. It bypasses human geopolitics entirely.
So Musk is basically building a planetary scale, physically sovereign brain.
That's exactly what it is.
But right now, that physical brain is essentially starving, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hungry for data.
It has already scraped, parsed, and consumed the entire text of the internet. If you want to power actual robotics, if you want agents that can navigate and operate in the physical reality of a city, you can't just feed them Wikipedia articles.
No, because the internet is largely composed of text and two-dimensional images.
Right.
The real world is a chaotic, three-dimensional, multi-sensory environment. To train robotics, you need spatial data.
And that constraint forces us to look at what DoorDash is currently doing.
Which is fascinating.
It's crazy. DoorDash just launched a new tasks app where they are paying their human delivery drivers to walk around and film everyday tasks.
They want ground-level physical insights.
Right. They are paying dashers to photograph restaurant food, capture hotel entrances from multiple angles, and even record themselves speaking in various languages.
And DoorDash explicitly states this data is being used to help AI and robotic systems understand the physical world.
It is a ruthless, highly effective business model.
It is. Real-world spatial data is the single most valuable and limited resource in the AI sector right now.
Without it, robotics manufacturers are trapped.
Right. They're trapped training their models in digital simulations that fail to capture the unpredictable chaos of a real city street.
Yeah.
DoorDash realized that their massive fleet of delivery drivers is actually a decentralized network of human sensor nodes.
They are capturing premium real-world data commodities.
Exactly, commodities that they can package and sell to robotics firms. This is the very definition of spatial data harvesting.
But the privacy implications of turning gig workers into a surveillance fleet are staggering. I mean, Andrew Shimshock, the CTO of Mill Pond Research, recently issued a stark warning regarding this exact practice.
Yeah, his analysis on this was spot on.
He detailed the structural permanence of this data. Once an AI system is trained on biometric or spatial data, that underlying training data must be considered permanently compromised.
This is a critical mechanical distinction to understand. When a multimodal model ingests a video of a hotel entrance, it doesn't just store that video in a searchable database folder.
No, it fundamentally alters the mathematical weights and pathways inside its neural network.
Right, you cannot simply query the system and hit delete on a specific video. It is like trying to remove the sugar from a cake after it has already been baked.
Which means the traditional concept of user consent is completely disintegrating. Think about the implications for you listening right now as a private citizen.
It affects everyone.
If you're just walking your dog, minding your own business, and a dasher films a restaurant storefront for an extra $2, what happens? Your biometric markers, your unique gait, and your daily routine become permanently baked into the neural weights of a delivery drone's navigation system.
Without your consent.
Exactly. And because bad actors no longer need to hack a traditional server, they only need to carefully prompt the AI model to reveal those structural weights that spatial data is perpetually vulnerable.
And we have seen the precedent for this phenomenon already with Pokemon Go.
Oh, right.
Hundreds of millions of users wandered the streets, exhaustively mapping their local neighborhoods in pursuit of digital monsters.
And that spatial data was quietly aggregated to build a visual positioning system.
Yep, which was later used to train autonomous delivery robots. Spatial data harvesting dictates that humans are actively selling their physical environment and the privacy of everyone occupying it for literal pocket change.
It is the necessary macroeconomic consequence of trying to force AI out of a cloud server and into the physical reality of our cities.
It is.
And while DoorDash maps our urban environments, this integration of physical data and AI orchestration is already completely upending legacy systems in places you would never really expect.
It is targeting the industries that haven't seen meaningful technological modernization in centuries.
Right. Look at Halter, an agricultural tech company out of New Zealand. They are reportedly closing a new funding round led by Peter Thiel's Founders Fund that values the startup at $2 billion.
$2 billion for cows.
Ha! Exactly. Halter has developed something they call the Cowgorithm. They build solar-powered digital collars for dairy cows.
And these collars use specific audio cues and physical vibrations to guide the animals, right?
Entirely replacing physical wire fences.
Yeah.
A farmer simply herds their cattle remotely via an application, but the system 2 reality here is the data generation.
Always the data.
Right. Those collars are transmitting over 6,000 data points per minute back to Halter's proprietary AI, tracking the health, movement patterns, and grazing optimization of the herd. Halter has already amassed over 7 billion hours of physical animal behavior data.
7 billion hours of real-world biological data.
It's massive.
When you apply the System 2 framework, the massive valuation makes perfect sense. We get distracted by consumer-facing toys, but the genuine macroeconomic shifts occur when legacy infrastructure is digitized.
Because agriculture is fundamentally the science of managing biological assets over vast spatial areas.
Exactly. And historically, that management required wood, barbed wire, and immense human labor.
Today, it requires solar compute, behavioral data aggregation, and machine learning.
Collecting 7 billion hours of behavioral data is exactly what happens when you treat the physical world as a local state orchestration layer.
The irony is incredible, though. For you listening, think about it. Pop culture promised us a future of sleek humanoid robots serving coffee in pristine environments.
Yeah, a sci-fi dream.
But instead, one of the most highly valued, functionally successful physical applications of AI right now is a virtual, data-driven fence for a 300-cow dairy farm in New Zealand.
It just proves that the future of this technology isn't a text box in a browser tab.
No. The real value is deeply embedded in the mud, tracking and optimizing the relentless reality of the physical world.
The wrapper companies playing with text are collapsing, while the entities building sovereign hardware and harvesting spatial data are establishing unassailable moats.
Which leaves us with a fascinating and frankly unsettling synthesis to consider as we wrap up. When you look at the entire macroeconomic board we've analyzed today, the pattern is undeniable.
It really is.
Halter is replacing physical fences with digital collars, using an AI Cowgorithm to silently track 6,000 data points a minute and optimize biological behavior. DoorDash is paying a decentralized human fleet to exhaustively map our physical environments and digitize our neighborhoods.
And Mark Zuckerberg is building a second-brain AI chief of staff to ingest every corporate file and fundamentally bypass layers of human management.
Right?
The through line here is absolute physical and operational tracking, which forces a very specific question for you, the listener, to consider.
Let's hear it.
As our physical workspaces become perfectly mapped by spatial harvesting, and our corporate data is fully ingested into localized second brains, at what point do human enterprise workers become managed by similar invisible data-driven collars?
Wow.
When does middle management completely disappear, replaced by an agentic AI that silently tracks your workflow data points to optimize your daily output?
From .com software wrappers to digital collars for the modern worker, that is definitely something to think about. We want to thank you for joining us in the deep end today.
It's been a heavy one.
It has. If you want to go even further into the structural mechanics we discussed, head over to the ads-free Jamgamine premium feed. Over there, we have an uninterrupted, deeply macroeconomic analysis of Musk's Terafab project, exploring exactly how orbital compute will bypass current global supply chains.
It is essential intelligence if you are tracking the reality of hardware sovereignty.
Absolutely, because the frictionless magic of software is an illusion. The future of the enterprise is hardware, it is spatial data, and it is the physical orchestration of our reality. The wrapper is dead, the physical harvest has just begun.
That concludes our rundown for March 23rd. The signal for today is physical extraction. Whether it's Musk extracting silicon from Texas or DoorDash extracting spatial data from your local streets, the models of the future require real-world grounding. This episode was made possible by Area and Jamgamind. Until tomorrow, keep unraveling the future.
And before you go, if your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads, we build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgamind.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.